Hey you, welcome to or welcome back to Motivation Maven, a sub-episode of the Preventative Mental Health Show, where we're focused on motivation and inspiration to help guide you through the week ahead. I'm Keisha, your host, and I'm thrilled that you tuned in today. So the big question is, are you feeling stressed? All right, well, if you said yes, you are not alone. In 2023, 53% of American women and 45% of American men said they reported feeling stressed. That's a lot of people. And to be honest, when I think of being stressed, I've always been one of those folks that said, look, if I'm not stressed and I don't have a lot on my plate, I just can't get things done. Now, if that's true or not, that's what I think anyway. But I use it for my motivation just to, get things done. But the reality is, I always see life as I need to be a lifelong learner. Why? Because what I do today, there might be a better way for me to do it, something that's just a little bit more efficient or effective. So I'm constantly seeking new techniques and ideas to help balance life. So in those moments that I do feel stressed, I can just feel better equipped to handle it. So I sought out this book, The 10-Step Stress Solution. Live More, Relax More, Re-Energize by Neil Shah. I think that's how we say his last name. Anywho, I was thrilled. I was like, 10 steps? That's it? And I'll be able to manage stress, not just for myself, but to share with clients? I was like, I'm in. And I started reading through this book, and I was pleasantly surprised that it had none of the information that I was expecting it to have. I was expecting it to say, well, if you're feeling stressed, do all of this self-care. Go get your nails done, get your pedicure, find time away from other people. The generic things that we always hear about of how to de-stress. What I got, and I'm not going to say all of the 10 steps because, I'm just going to say it's worth the read and or getting it on audiobook. I highly recommend speeding it up and just plowing through it. Probably is going to take you an hour and a half if you bump up the speed a bit. I am going to say that out of all of the 10 steps, every one of the major areas that I talk about on the Preventative Mental Health Show, like Instagram page and YouTube videos, focused on all of those areas. He talked about staying hydrated. He talked about eating well, making sure that you're moving, getting good sleep. These are all areas that I am constantly harping on to say that if you focus on those areas, you'll be able to set a good foundation for yourself for when you're just going through your day-to-day life. So you could just be a little bit more resilient. But he proved time and time again throughout this book, in each one of those areas, the importance of making sure that you're doing all of them so you can think better during situations that you could potentially get stressed. So trust me when I say, I may have listened to this book on audio, but it will soon be a hard copy in my home because this book was so on point with everything that my channel is about. Everything. So he talked about how if you stay hydrated, it keeps your brain functioning well. Our bodies are made up of water. And the fact that so many of us, I included, are walking around dehydrated, it makes it difficult for us to handle stressful situations when they arise because we're not operating at our peak performance. So trust me, it's something that I have had to put in practice and I have to work hard at. I'm not one of those people who could just knock back a gallon of water and be like, I'm good. It takes work for me throughout the day, but I know that benefits are there. He talked about our just sleep patterns. And the reality is, interestingly enough, out of the entire week, according to his book and the research that he found, Mondays are probably the days that you're going to feel the most tired. Why? Because most adults tend to have insomnia Sunday nights. And my assumption is that we are so worked up and focused on Monday morning, those Monday morning blues, right? Wondering what is it that is going to await us in the office, in our inbox, come Monday. So Mondays can be difficult for us. Maybe you're one of those folks that stay up late on Sunday, not even realizing, just subconsciously staying up and being concerned about your week ahead. It's possible, right? If 53% of women, 45% of men are reporting feeling stressed, half the time we probably don't even realize how stressed we're truly feeling and what it is that's even causing the stress. So I highly recommend the book, but there wasn't anything profound. There was no magical phrase or something you can eat or anything you can drink that's just going to melt stress away. Because all stress is well, it's life. It's our life. And one thing that I really liked about the quote for this week that I'm going to share with you right now, the truth is that stress doesn't come from your boss, your kids, your spouse, traffic jams, health challenges, or other circumstances. It comes from your thoughts about your circumstances. It comes from your thoughts about your circumstances. And interestingly enough, this is another area that the author talks about in that book, the 10-step stress solution. He talks about recognizing that we need to choose to be happy. And trust me, I almost jumped out of my seat because there is a part in the book where the author says, people oftentimes get frustrated with me when they ask, how are you so happy? He says, I choose to be. I say this all the time. I am not happy all the time. It's a choice. I choose to be happy. And there's days that I slip up, but I have to remind myself that it's a choice. And it all depends upon how I see my situation. And the author gives all of these different examples, and they're definitely examples that I could relate to. For example, if you're moving is not easy. Moving can be very stressful, right? You're trying to figure out, I got to get all of my items out of my home by a certain time. I have to get all the coordination to get from point A to point B, making sure I'm not breaking things along the way, forgetting things. I have to clean up one spot and then prep another spot. And then the more people you add to the move, the more stressful it can seem, right? And he says, using the example of moving, what if people say, well, what if you don't like your job after you move? Well, if I don't like it, it's a good experience for me. It's going to end up adding to my resume. I'll be able to utilize the experience, even if I'm only there for a short time, to find a new opportunity in that area. Another question could be, well, what about your kids? What if they don't make any friends in their new school? Well, I'm going to make sure that I put my child in a bunch of different activities and to give them exposure to what opportunities are in the area, and they're bound to find somebody that they can connect with. So creating opportunities for them to network and find a new community of friends. It's the fact that, and trust me, I've actually done that very thing. It's the fact that looking at the situation not in a negative light, but just saying, you know what, I have options. It's not taking away the concerns. It's recognizing them, but seeing them through a lens that's one of positivity, and as well, it's an open mindset. We're not being fixed. We're being very much open, and we're being open to change. And that is what I thought was so fascinating. It's not the situations that stress us out. It's the way we're thinking about the situation. So no, I didn't feel like there was anything profound in the 10-step stress solution, but I do think that everything in the book was relevant. Relevant in the sense of, think of yourself as a tree. And I have to say, I actually heard this at church this week, and I know it's amazing to me how you hear or read different things that just in the right moment, they all just come together. They were talking about a tree, or any plant really. And if that tree or that plant is sitting in the pot that you bought it in, when you take it out of the pot, you always see at the bottom, there's all these roots that are just exposed. And the reality is those roots just don't know where to go because they're seeking nutrients. They're seeking all of the minerals it needs so that plant can grow, but it can't go anywhere because it's stuck in this pot. And as soon as you put that plant in the ground and you plant it, and let's say a year later you go and you decide you want to pull this plant up out of the ground, the reality is you're no longer going to see its roots wrapped around the bottom. You're going to see long strings of roots because it sought out the nutrients and everything it needed for that plant to grow. That is what I think this book gives you. It gives you all the nutrients you need. So when you're in a stressful situation, you can withstand the storm. So a perfect example is when you see those mature trees. Now, I'm not really a tree person. Obviously, we all need trees and plants to grow so we can breathe, right? They're cleaning the air for us. But you know those really, really big like oak trees? And there's like a bad storm and you're looking out that window and you're watching that thing just blow back and forth and you're just like, please don't fall in my car. You're watching it blow back and forth and you're just like, just don't fall down. And then in the morning when everything calms and you go outside, that tree is just standing there in all its majesty, just standing. Life is that way. Life is the storm. The situation at work. Kids just having a hard time some days. Some days kids just wake up and they're just like, whoo, you woke up on the wrong side of bed. Do you need to go take a nap? Situations get stressful. Those are the storms. Those are the storms in life, and you have to be that tree. Because we can't tell the storm not to come. The storm's coming. Life is life-in, okay? It's coming. But can you withstand the storm? And as you're standing there and just it's blowing and blowing and you're shaking, you might move and you might lose your balance a little bit, but the goal is to be able to remain standing, just like those trees do. But they're able to withstand the storm because they're rooted. They're dug down deep. So that's why I say this book provides us with the foundations we need to weather the storm. It's telling us everything that I'm talking about here. It's telling us to eat well. I mean, there's an entire entire marketing platform for a food, a candy, right? That says, don't be hungry, right? Because if you're hungry, you get mad and angry. It's a joke in some ways, but it's 100% true. You can't stay focused on the task ahead if you're hungry. So eating well, staying hydrated, we already talked about, getting your sleep, being active and moving. We are not made to just sit around every day. We are made to get those steps in, to move, to be active. Why? Because when we do that, our body reacts in a way that is healing. Our body acts in a way that gives off endorphins to give us those feel-good hormones. There is some positivity and joy in just preparation when we focus on the basics. So that is what this book gives us. That's what we talk about here on Preventive Mental Health Show. The basics, so you can weather the storm. So that's what it gives you. It's that nutrients. It's that water that those roots are seeking so you can withstand. Hey, in this week, the challenge is life is life in. So that part, check, done. You know that's going to happen. The question is, are you rooting yourself? And only you know the answer to that. I am totally convinced that self-care is an absolute scam. Convinced of it. I am now committed to saying self-focus. Because you have to focus on yourself to identify the areas that you're just not feeling strong in or prepared for. I said those are foundational items that we find in this book. Only you, by doing that self-reflection, know the areas that you need attention. You know, it's funny, in each section of the book, the author asks the 3 to 5 questions. And he'll say, did you answer? Majority of those is yes. If so, you need help in this area. It's so interesting. At first it's kind of funny. I was a little taken back. I was like, well, okay, I guess I need help. The reality is we need help. We are just so proud that we just don't want to ask for it. And sometimes asking for help isn't necessarily always from people. Sometimes you could just seek out help by reading a book. But the reality is you're not going to even know the help that you need if you don't take time for self-focus to figure out the root cause of the situation. If you're saying, yeah, I'm stressed, well, what is it that's stressing you? Because we learned in our quote this week that it's not situations and circumstances that stress you out. It's the way that you think about them. It's the way that you think about them. But for you to think clearly, what are you doing? What are those foundational things that you are doing to prepare yourself so your mind can be strong, to make good judgments, to support you through the storms? This is it's a tough one because it's going to take time. This isn't just one thing. Like last week I said, go find a hobby. Go dust off your hobby and start doing it again and start to play. It doesn't matter that you're an adult. That was the goal last week. That was the challenge. This week's challenge is life is going to be lifing. So prep for it. Find those foundational areas that you need support. And then think through every situation and make the choice. Make the choice to be happy. Make the choice to see it in a positive light. Again, it doesn't negate the situation. Find the positive light. I'm going to wrap up here, but years ago, and not if you're new here, you probably don't know I'm a heart failure survivor. So years ago, I was laying in the hospital bed being told that my heart was failing. And in that situation, I kept thinking, well, what am I going to do with my life? Because the current work that I do, there's no way they're going to let me keep doing that. So that job, that career had been my identity for so long. And once I was getting through it and once I was getting better and I had everything was managed and the right medication and the right this and the right that, in those situations, I had to think through and make the choice to be happy. And trust me, there were days where I just didn't think there was anything. And while I was sitting home recovering, I had to recognize and bring myself back to the moment that in this time, that is probably one of the most stressful times of my life, I had the opportunity to stay home with my children, my 2 brand new babies. I have 3 kids. I was able to stay home with them and see them grow. Because when I was first diagnosed, my family was told I only had 5 years. Every single moment with them was a gift. So I could have wallowed in those moments and wonder, oh, why me? Or I can make the choice to be thankful that I was there with them. It's not the situations that cause you stress. It's how you think of them. And believe me, I knew in my heart that I wasn't going anywhere. And that there was going to be some good that was going to come out of this situation. And what was the good for me? It's what I'm doing right now. The fact that I'm seeing clients again. The fact that the Keisha that was, oh my gosh, just a teenager who decided what her career was going to be. I wanted to be a social worker. I wanted to be in therapy. I lost that along the way because life was lifing. And I had so many responsibilities and obligations that overshadowed our dreams. And this may have happened for you too. You may not be doing the very thing today that you dreamed to have done when you were a child. But the reality is, if we just get rooted, and if we just look at our circumstances in a positive light, it's not always easy. I truly believe we'll make it back to the road in our assigned path that was always made for us. I didn't lose the passion to help others. I didn't lose any of that drive of what sparked the desire to do what I wanted to do. I just looked at my circumstances in a way where I couldn't. So here I am now, doing the very thing I've always wanted to do, in addition to everything else. So in this week, this has to be on you. Only you know the areas that you need to focus. Only you know how to put this in practice. I highly recommend that you get to listen to it at least. It's worth a listen to. Hey, have an amazing week. You absolutely got this. I know you do. Until next time, remember to upgrade yourself, your life, and your future. And you got this.